It's not just about fits and relationships anymore. It is transactional. That was former North Carolina coach Mack Brown talking about college football today. This is a guy who won a national championship at Texas, had a very successful stint his first time at North Carolina. And I want to talk about how that fits into what Kirby Smart and company are doing at Georgia today, because I think it's actually a very good point about college football today and collegiate athletics today. And I think, if you'll bear with me, I'll tell you why this should benefit Kirby specifically. But let me take you first down memory lane in 2016. Just before 2016, the first week of December in 2015, Kirby Smart being named head coach at Georgia after Mark Richt was fired a day after his final win over Georgia Tech in Atlanta. And, Kirby at the time was the defensive coordinator at Alabama, yada, yada, yada. The first season was a learning experience for Kirby in every single way. And that's not just coming from my opinion. This is me talking to a lot of people who were at Georgia at the time. They're not there now, but they saw it up close and personal. And, it was my view of the world that, very quickly, my view of the world, that Kirby Smart's a transactional person. If you can do something for him, he'll do something for you. If you can't, he's less likely to do it. Now, I don't mean that in a derogatory way. I don't mean that in a bad way. A lot of people work that way. We all do in some respect. Well, that's how college football is right now, with money. And I think that will benefit Georgia, because I don't think that other schools, first of all, Kirby, in my view, has been living in this world for a long time in terms of this is transactional. I mean, I think that Mack Brown saying it out loud, that's the best way to put it, because a lot of people are complaining about the money when, like fans, when the head coach of Georgia gets paid $13 million a year. Why would he work and not get paid? Now, the kids are just wanting to, it's not wanting, it's a new reality. We've had NIL for almost 5 years now. So there's nothing new here. What's new, of course, is the transfer portal, which came in right at the same time. And Georgia's taking advantage of that as well. JT Daniels, Stetson Bennett, JT Daniels, De'Aaron Kendrick. There's been no shortage of players that Georgia's brought in with the portal, including, two really important wide receivers this season from SC and Texas A&M. So back to the point here, I think what Mack Brown is talking about is really critical, because, this is the part that I think that is really important. In my opinion, at the beginning of this thing, and still to some degree now, Kirby Smart was a visionary in a way that Georgia didn't have. I mean, you'd had Jerry Moorhead, the president of the University of Georgia, has been the president, or has been at Georgia since, I think, 1980. I think he may have had a job at one other place, and that's it. So he's been at Georgia and has seen how Georgia's worked and really understands all the institutional stuff at Georgia, institutional knowledge. There's value there. Greg McGarity had been the athletic director at Georgia for, at that point, 6 years. He had been at Florida and watched the success that Urban Meyer had down there. He was the football was under his purview at Florida. That was what he was responsible for as the associate athletic director. When it came to Georgia, they had success under Mark Richt, but it was not the type of success that they wanted. So, Greg pulls the trigger. It was his call to fire Mark Richt. It was his call to hire Kirby Smart, no matter how many of you people in the comments want to say otherwise, whatever. But it was Greg's call. And what Greg and Jerry were missing was the vision. Well, that sounds sort of harsh on them. What I mean by that is, Kirby said, I need this. I've got to have these things. And that, to me, is vision. You didn't have that under Mark. That was Mark's flaw to me, was he would not say, I need a real indoor practice facility, not this thing that Damon Evans built. This is a joke. This is a multi-million-dollar place to eat food. This is not a real thing. And they knocked it down within, a decade of it being built. What a total waste of money. That is not having vision. Kirby, as difficult as he can be with the media, and as difficult as he can be in general, but he's difficult for a reason. He's trying to set things up for success. So when, Mack Brown says, and he's talking about North Carolina football right here. He says, You need to be at a program where the president and athletic director are forward-thinking enough that they'll give you money to have success. He says to do it, to have success. Georgia doesn't have that problem in football. They do not have a revenue problem or a spending problem. They have plenty of money. They have to watch money because of the $20 million at NIL that's going out the door from the institution itself. But most places do not have what Georgia has. Ohio State, Texas, some places do, but most places don't have the wherewithal that Georgia does financially. A lot of those schools are in the SEC, but most places don't. And North Carolina doesn't have what Georgia has in football. They don't. I'm not saying they never will, but they never have. So what we're going to see more and more of as time goes on is a separation of the powers, which is the Georgias, Ohio States of the world, and the UCLAs, North Carolina, maybe anyone in the ACC, Florida State, Clemson, I don't know. That's less as obvious to me. But it seems to me like the big brands are going to play for bigger and bigger prizes because it is transactional. And just to be honest, it matters more about winning at football at Georgia than it does at Louisville or wherever. It matters a lot at Ohio State. It matters at Georgia right now winning in football more than it does at Florida. It just does. If that weren't the case, why would Billy Napier right now in the climate at Georgia would not survive? He would not survive. He would have been tossed out. Progress is good, and multiple things can be true at the same time. Just because Georgia's at a particular place right now doesn't mean it's wrong for Florida to keep him, keep Billy. Okay, but what I mean is, Florida's situation is not like Georgia's. They haven't just magically gotten here in the last 15 years. They've chosen that. Georgia's chosen to get very, very serious about football. I don't see the same things at certain schools. Auburn has, I wouldn't say pivoted away from football, but they just have not had success at all. And we're going to see, Alabama football will always be important in a way at Alabama that it is not even close to being important at other schools. It is in the blood the same way it is at Georgia, Texas, Ohio State, I guess Michigan. Look, it's far more important to Ohio State than it is Michigan in football. And look, why can I say that? Why do I say that? Well, look at the last 20 years, 25 years. They're not the same at all. That one national championship does not cure all ails. Michigan went backwards in a big way this year. So it is transactional. That 3-word sentence is the part that in some ways should scare a lot of people, athletic departments, but it's an opportunity. If this is just about money and you are one of the biggest places, if you're Georgia, in your backyard, you have Delta, you have Coca-Cola, you have all these Fortune 500 companies that are Southern Company that are building and have places in Atlanta and have for a long time. Okay, so all of that is an opportunity for a place like Georgia or Tech. Tech for sure should be the better than they are. They should harness the ability to fundraise in Atlanta through companies and all of the value that you could build at Tech, but they haven't done it. Why? Because it doesn't matter the way that it does at Georgia. That's the difference. As my phone flips, that's the difference right now, y'all. Is that when the institution cares in a major way, you see it. You see it on the field. Georgia didn't in a way. And so they allowed things to happen for a long time. To some degree, I think that's what's been the case in Georgia basketball for 25 years. It just, as a ethos, it's just not important to Georgia to win in basketball. Now that Auburn and Tennessee, Alabama and Florida's won in basketball in the past, this century. Those other schools really haven't. Auburn a little bit, not much. Tennessee a little bit, not much. Alabama, not really since Wimp Sanderson, since the 80s. So will it become important at Georgia the way that it has at the other SEC schools? It should. Atlanta's a basketball city as much as it is football. It's probably more a basketball city, to be honest with you, with the kids. But there's just been a poor relationship between the two major institutions in the state and the basketball community. I would say, to me, that's as much on the schools as it is the basketball community, because football every Friday night is the most important thing in town. And I don't even know how many places in Georgia, pretty much everywhere, even the suburbs, it's such a huge deal. And that bleeds over into Saturdays. I mean, I have made a living for a quarter century off of Georgia football. I know how much and how important it is, but they've ratcheted it up, and they've got the right person to do that. I think what Mac Brown is talking about is something Georgia should listen to, not just about football, but about basketball too. But you can't take your eye off the ball. I mean, Kirby Smart has been the head coach at Georgia for 10 years. My suspicion is he'll probably be the head coach there for another 10 years. But someone else will come after him. There will be a Kalen DeBoer. And you have to set your institution up for success. And look, y'all can like or dislike Ohio State all you want. I don't care. That's up to you. But they have won a national championship, just like LSU, with their last three head coaches. I mean, I'm not counting Luke Fickell. Okay, so their last three head coaches, who were their non-interim head coaches, have all won national championships. That should be Georgia. It should be Alabama. It should be Florida. But that definitely should be Ohio State and Georgia, places like that. Great coaches make great schools, sure. But great schools can provide you opportunities that you don't get at other places. That's what Mac Brown is trying to get at, is if you're willing to spend, the greatness will come your way. But this no more about, oh, I really like it here. You can like it anywhere. Thanks for watching.